If you were colorblind and had an IQ less than 12, then you wouldn't care which portable you had. Of course, you wouldn't care if you drank from the toilet either.
Sega's answer to the generation-defining Game Boy was the Game Gear. Positioned as technologically superior, this little brick was capable of running far more graphically advanced video games.
Game Gear.
'Twas a bold strategy, considering it didn't work. Such is the eternal story of Sega versus Nintendo, Sonic versus Mario. 1992's Super Mario Kart would spawn a subgenre, and Sonic Drift would ride its coattails. Or so they say. There is no question that Sonic Drift exists to rival Mario Kart. Practically everyone wanted a piece of the party racing pie. Look a little deeper though, and you might find that those influences are chiefly commercial. I think Sonic Drift is interested in a decidedly classic racing experience, something a little more hardcore. Maybe even something cooler than Mario Kart. Sonic Drift sells the fantasy of Outrun on a 3-inch screen. It's smooth, it's sleek, it's fast. It is unmistakably Sonic. Can you handle the hairpin turns while you barrel ahead at top speed? It's the same question his platformers ask. That makes it unapproachable. Without strong comeback mechanics, bad driving is harshly punished. Either you learn these tracks, or you spin out. Here's the neat thing. Drifting speeds you up. That means you can go even faster by snaking, or chaining drifts in opposite directions on straightaways. Drifting will override the speed reduction from driving in the off-road, allowing you to cut even tighter turns. You'll go so fast that CPUs will fade into the background. Surely they could use items to get themselves back into the race. This game was partly inspired by Mario Kart, after all. Here's where we see another departure from that philosophy. These items are part of the track. Red monitors give you a speed boost, and blue monitors turn you invincible. You will find them in the same spots every race. Rather than a roulette wheel which decides your fate, these tracks are far more predictable. On the first course, you don't need any of these power-ups to get the best time. Drifting in the off-road's all you need, provided you dodge the 2 tree obstacles in your way every lap. Moving to a different zone, suddenly drifting in the off-road's a lot harder. More turns, more obstacles, more opportunities to spin out while snaking. Items come in handy for courses with a lot of turns. Invincibility gives you a brief window to snake in the off-road no matter how many obstacles there are. It's an indispensable item to grab on many courses, but not all of them. Depends on the track, and it depends who you play against. Eggman and Amy have special abilities that litter races with trash you might bump into, but Sonic and Tails have boosts and jumps to make up the difference. All of those abilities require rings, making them a reliable and renewable resource. Achieving that perfect run by using the tools available on the stage and mastering your drift is a thrill befitting Sonic the Hedgehog. In a post-Mario Kart world, I think Sonic Drift stands out by simply existing as a hardcore racing game. Super Mario Kart is a dumbed-down F-Zero, and as history has shown, simplifying the racer proved to be a lucrative move on Nintendo's part. Getting a Sonic racing game that's closer to the speed and difficulty of an F-Zero was not going to go over particularly well. Perhaps in response, Sonic Drift 2 would lower this skill ceiling by neutering the speed you get from a drift. Snaking had been eliminated. In exchange, we get lengthier racetracks with road hazards to avoid, as well as rubber banding CPUs that make the Grand Prix a welcome challenge. Drift 2 is more about managing threats to your speed. That can mean other racers overtaking you, it can mean running into an item that slows you down, or it can mean slamming into a rock and spinning out. Longer straightaways help promote this combative playstyle, bringing each of the characters closer in power level. It is really valuable to have Tails or Knuckles' jump that rockets you up to top speed immediately. Useful for avoiding items as well as recovering from being hit by them. Fang, Amy, and Eggman are even more useful in single player, as the CPUs are more than capable of overtaking you. Aiming your item throws to stop them in their tracks is surprisingly effective. Sonic Drift theoretically had alternate playstyles, but it was hard to justify them when snaking was so powerful. Amy could recover from getting hit faster than anyone, and benefited the most from snaking. She is the de facto pick for a game where Grand Prix is a series of time trials. Drift 2 is a more fun single-player experience when every character has their own style. Letting you pick the CPUs you're up against lets you tailor that experience even further. These tracks have a dynamism the original lacked. Sections with bottomless pits, big ramps, and turns in the shape of Eggman's face. I can pick them out in my mind easier than I can in the first game, where only the off-road obstacles really mattered. Even with snaking gone, staying ahead is still about cutting turns as tightly as possible to stay ahead. That's easier than snaking the whole race, but it isn't easy in and of itself. Maybe that's why it was still not able to compete in an arena with Nintendo. They're both illustrative of the foundation for Sonic racers going forward. Difficult to learn and satisfying as hell to master. No matter how much of their minutiae differ from entry to entry, all of them are about this at their core. Mario Kart will always be there for lesser gamers, but we all know where to go for the good shit. Sega's contribution to 3D gaming was the Saturn. Titles like Nights into Dreams, Burning Rangers, and a ton of arcade ports called this their home. Once again, it could not compete with Sony or Nintendo, and once again it championed a Sonic racing game that was cooler than Mario Kart. Sonic R co-ops Sonic's platforming DNA even more readily than the Drift games. This time, Sonic and friends race with their feet, which could fool you into thinking it controls like a platformer. You might be able to jump, but you still control like a race car. That means it is difficult to turn at top speed without using your brakes. In Sonic R, you need to prove you can handle moving at top speed like you would when driving a car, but also like you would in the Genesis games. Tracks are designed like them as well, with multiple paths to take. Discovering which combination of those routes is the quickest is the easiest way to win a race. You can absolutely play Sonic R this way. It's the most efficient method to get used to the controls and overcome that learning curve. I had to spend a bit of time here cycling characters out to see how their abilities changed a race. Knuckles' glide ends up turning him into one of the fastest characters, allowing him to skip huge stretches of the racetrack. Mecha Knuckles is even better at this, with a ridiculous top speed. In the Genesis games, one character is always going to finish a level faster than the others. The point of playing as another character is to discover unique ways through the levels using their abilities. Sure, you can conquer a stage with Mecha Knuckles, but can you do it with Amy in her cute car? Amy is completely outclassed by faster characters, but that becomes her identity. She's like a challenge mode. Using her boost makes it nearly impossible to turn for a few seconds. Where do you use this boost to get the most out of it? Play Amy too conservatively, holding on to your boost forever, and you'll miss out on a few of them over the course of a race. Sonic was a mystery to me at first. He felt very vanilla. That is, until I found out that he could double jump. Suddenly it all clicked into place. Figuring out how to use his double jump to cut even tighter turns, staying out of the water wherever possible is a treat. He's my favorite character to race with when I'm not looking to break the stage for free. He will never be the fastest choice, but I have so much more fun with his double jump than I do with Tails' flight or Knuckles' glide. Learning the ins and outs, getting good times, that's the tutorial. Collecting everything is the point at which Sonic R begins. Every track has 5 coins and 1 or 2 Chaos Emeralds. You need the coins to unlock new racers, and all of the Chaos Emeralds for Super Sonic. These 2 types of collectibles are technically separate. You can go after them one at a time. To keep your emeralds, you'll need to clinch first place. Remember, your AI competitors don't need to do any of this extraneous stuff. Many of these coins are out of the way, hidden behind ring gates. Holding onto rings is essential, usually forcing you to skip the ring boost panels. CPUs will be more than happy to take these and rocket into first place. Sonic R peaks at the intersection of these extraneous elements. Choose any racer you want, figure out how to leverage their abilities on every track, and then collect all 5 coins and Chaos Emeralds in one fell swoop. That's going to look different for every character. Crossing that full completion finish line with Mecha Knuckles is simple. Doing it with Amy is much more challenging. Your reward is Super Sonic, the best character. A reward which once again resembles the platformers. You can either unlock Super Sonic and use him to trivialize the rest of the game's challenges, and maybe terrorize your friends in multiplayer, or you can save him for the final unlockable. Stuff like this makes Sonic R feel like a Sonic game. It inherits so much more than the iconography of Sonic. It's got the mechanical identity as well. It's here where we see a much more visible dividing line between Sonic and Mario's racers. Mario Kart 64's biggest contribution was the blue shell, what would become the quintessential comeback mechanic and an enduring symbol of its accessible appeal. Sonic R's contributions craft a more brutal play space, where those who do not know what they're doing will fall behind. No shells to throw or banana peels to place, may the best racer win. You can't really play Sonic R at a birthday party and expect everyone to have a good time. In the same way that you can't really hand someone a Sonic game unprompted and expect them to excel. Sonic games just expect more from you. Clear those initial hurdles and you're in for an experience capable of giving you so much more than Mario Kart ever could. In the late 90s and early aughts, extreme sports were everywhere. Skateboarding, mountain climbing, snowboarding, dangerous recreations. In an era where Sonic could no longer rely on its parent company for a hardware home, this was exactly the kind of spice he needed to be cooler than Mario Kart. As a kid, I did not understand how to play Sonic Riders. I was pretty awful at it, actually. Yet I couldn't help but be drawn to it. Those sick stunts, that high speed, that seemingly effortless cool factor. Sonic Riders was and still is the definition of adrenaline. Air is your lifeline. You need it to stay on your board, but you must also spend it for speed. There are only a few spots on the track to replenish air, and only some are guaranteed. I would always use pit stops, blissfully unaware that I had wandered into a beginner's trap. Doesn't really matter how fast you've been going, pit stops are only useful to those who have royally screwed up. Pulling off tricks and taking shortcuts are far more efficient methods to regain air. The 3 types of character take different shortcuts, not all of which are faster than boosting on the ground. They all replenish air, so depending on how much you have, it might be worth trudging through a shortcut anyway. You don't want to be wiping out. It's a slightly more evolved version of the design approach we've already been talking about. These shortcuts feel a little more like the exclusive routes baked into the level design for Knuckles in Sonic 3. Racing on a knife's edge is the extreme ethos of Sonic Riders. How many boosts can you eke out before falling flat on your face? Can you thread that needle? During every race, a voice in the back of my head whispers to me, asking for just one more boost. I can handle that, right? Here's the rub. Everything uses air. Whether it be charging for a sick jump or drifting around a tight corner, you have to make sure there's enough in the tank. Green Cave lays a trap for greedy players like me right at the beginning. If you're a speed character, you can simply take the rail shortcut through this first section. Anyone else will need to take it by drifting through it. Easy enough on lap 1 when you still have most of your air. A little more difficult on subsequent laps where you're trying to boost as much as possible. Drifting depletes a deceptive amount of air, so if you aren't careful before you reach this section, you'll run out mid-drift. Running out of air is practically a death sentence. For whatever reason, these characters cannot run fast, despite their last racing game proving the opposite. Since you can't charge up on ramps, it means you can only get a single trick off of one, giving you even less air to work with. Unless there's a stick-spinning minigame ahead of you, you'll almost always be forced to run into a pit stop. In a time trial, running out of air is an instant restart. Your extreme gear might as well explode like it's F-Zero. Truly perfecting a race in Riders tests control. Know your limits, your boards and your own. Tease out those boosts, fine-tune that playstyle. Get off that last trick before landing to achieve an X rank. One trick too many, and you'll fall right down to C rank, your efforts in vain. How quickly will you level up, increasing your stats and max air? Leveling up requires a lot of rings. Where are those rings placed? How easy are they to get? Having more air means more boosts and a larger margin for error. Is that worth going out of your way for? Riders is a wake-up call to those who only see this genre through Mario Kart goggles. Drifts in this game can be held like in that game, with one crucial difference. Drift boosts are not the goal. Tapping the button is also useful to make additional adjustments. At high speed, turning is an ordeal, so these smaller turns are practically necessary. Boosting is in the palm of your hand. You don't need an item or a fully charged drift to get one off. Speed is always under your control, as long as you can handle it. Catching up in Riders is not about pulling a blue shell or a bullet bill, it is almost always about playing better than everyone else. Frontrunners leave turbulence behind them that racers in the back can use as trick ramps to gain additional air, thus more opportunities to boost. That frontrunner can spend a bit of air to leave a tornado behind them, securing their lead. That's only worth it if you know for sure that you'll hit them. They can just as easily leave the turbulence of their own accord, expending a bit more air to catch up and wallop you. Boosting, see, is not merely a speed toggle. It places you in an attacking state, letting you easily overtake the person ahead of you. This isn't a game where you roll a shell or lightning to even the playing field. If you want to attack, you need to risk it all for the opportunity. All of this is managed by a single resource. One decision is enough to completely change the rest of your race, turning it into one of the most dynamic racers I have ever played. That stands out in an environment where Double Dash doubled down on Mario Kart's patented chaos, introducing the world to Baby Park and a litany of insane items like giant Yoshi eggs and Bowser shells. Now, I love Baby Park and the chaos it breeds, but the central point of this video is not that Sonic racing games are better than Mario Kart games, just that they are cooler. Play these suckers back to back and it becomes pretty damn clear which of these racers are on the cutting edge.
Slide through the curves.
The Nintendo Wii changed gaming for a while. Everyone had to bend to its motion-controlled will, and Sonic was no different. Many have argued that the sequel to Sonic Riders was changed by the need to accommodate a single Wii remote. So it was that this was the first time Sonic bent the knee to appeal to a wider audience. Nah, I'm fucking with you. This game rules, and it's easily cooler than Mario Kart. Sonic Riders Zero Gravity does not appear to be an exceptionally punishing game. Built on the same foundation as Riders, a number of changes have been made that lessen the immediate consequences of mistakes. Gravity, your air mechanic, no longer governs your ability to stay on a board. Running out won't kick you off. Instead, you won't get a boost from a drift, and gravity dives will be unavailable, your foremost means of gaining speed. Gravity, then, is much more of a luxury on first blush. Running out means losing potential speed, but it's more difficult to conceptualize that speed loss when you can still ride away on your board. It would seem like Zero Gravity has simplified the intense play required by the first game, surgically removed from its bones that radical edge. I'd argue that it never dulled. All it did was recontextualize that edge. I've heard it said that drifting no longer exists. That's true in a superficial sense, but not a literal one. Gravity control functions almost identically, right down to requiring gravity points to complete the drift. You use this to cut turns, you'll simply lose all of your speed if you haven't managed your gravity points correctly. I've heard it said in a similar way that boosting no longer exists. In my eyes, it does exist, just as a much more committal action that sucks up a lot more gravity. Gravity dives have their own designated sections where you're invited to use them. These sections throw you terrain to boost off of that will refill your gravity points. These are not the only places you can gravity dive. If you find yourself holding onto a ton of gravity, waiting for the one section of the track explicitly designed for its use, that's equivalent to playing Sonic Riders without boosting. Gravity, like air, is a resource. You replenish it in exactly the same way. Do tricks or take shortcuts. It's up to you to find sections of the track where gravity dives will gain you speed. Unlike the Rider's boost, which was always speed gain, gravity dives have a wind-up period where you aren't moving. The only way you make up for that time loss is if you can keep the dive going for a while. Easier said than done, as turning while diving is next to impossible. Leveling up's no longer a binary increase. Now you must decide between a series of 3 gears like a skill tree. For the regular board, the first gear shift will raise your speed, the second gear shift will unlock the ability for you to take the type shortcuts, and the third gear shift will give you a higher max GP. Each gear is more expensive than the last, but that progression doesn't have to be linear. As long as you reach 50 rings, you can skip over the first gear and get the second gear, which depending on the track, will let you take a shortcut on the first lap. On its face, restricting your ability to take shortcuts like this is a strange choice. Adding a wind-up to your boost mechanic is much less elegant than the system in Riders. Nevertheless, the end result is the same. I'm still looking for the best opportunities to spend my GP, I'm still looking for the most efficient ways to refill my GP, I'm looking for as many rings as I can to become more powerful. Reckless use of these tools will dramatically slow me down. Except now, my tools are a little more varied. Drifting with gravity lets you attach yourself to walls or ceilings. Doing this properly nets you more GP, with GP capsules and extra rings dotted along that path. Drifting into a wall and immediately initiating a gravity dive is slick as hell. You can use this drift to throw objects at power-type shortcuts, then gravity dive straight through them. Tricks function similarly to Riders, but this time you do not charge for the jump, you tap it at the last possible moment. Achieving an X rank is possible only if you switch up the direction you hold the control stick for every subsequent jump. Can't be doing the same tricks over and over. Yes, you do miss out on the tactile push and pull of performing tricks, trying not to get too greedy. In exchange, on top of everything else to manage in the middle of a race, you need to keep your last stick direction in the back of your mind for the next jump, one that you now need to press at the very last moment. These tricks, similar to the first game, are how you're supposed to make it to the higher routes. In Riders, you could hold the stick up or down to send you higher or farther. Admittedly, this has been made much simpler in Zero Gravity, as all you need to do is correctly time the jump button. If you fuck up the high trick in this game, though, you can still drift boost your way up there. It's slower than doing the trick correctly, but often faster than falling to the lower path. If you wanted to, you could skip this ramp altogether by gravity diving, slipping right onto the highest path. Tracks like Snowy Kingdom anticipate this, giving you objects to bounce off of in a section that otherwise isn't built for gravity dives. Gravity transforms the control you have over a race. You choose whether you want more speed or the ability to take shortcuts. You choose whether up, down, or sideways is the next section of the race. Gravity's potential as mechanic is as vast as you want it to be. This is why I have never been in love with Mario Kart 8's gimmick. Anti-gravity is nothing more than a flavor to what Mario Kart has always been. Tracks get to be more visually explosive, but that does not meaningfully alter what a race looks like. For me, that techno-futuristic theming, the ability to manipulate gravity, it's far more than an aesthetic coat of paint. It's the natural next step for riders, a way to keep its edge without tying itself down to a proven execution. It doesn't deliver Sonic Riders 2 with minimal differences the way Mario Kart has trained you to expect it, and I think that was the point. Sonic is very rarely what you expect. So, I was planning to talk about Sonic Free Riders next, but after realizing how much I had to talk about Xbox hardware, a la the Kinect, I didn't really feel comfortable with the segment considering the ongoing BDS boycott. I know they don't make 360s or Kinects anymore, but quite frankly, I don't feel good discussing Xbox at all right now. Microsoft is actively aiding a genocide. Any and all attention paid towards them should be scathing. As such, I have elected to simply cut this from the video. While I have your attention, if you have even a modicum of decency in your bones, consider canceling your Game Pass subscriptions, don't buy Xbox hardware, and steer clear of games published by Microsoft. Man, remember the PSP? Remember when handheld gaming was something you could realistically hold in your hands or fit in your pocket? I love my Switch and my Steam Deck, but they don't give me the same experience as these underpowered marvels. Developers had to craft games that fit their limitations. Sonic even tried his hand at a set of racing games, but in Sonic fashion, they were not quite what you would have expected. They're cooler than Mario Kart, though. The Sonic Rivals duology is an oft-forgotten footnote in the history of Sonic racing games. Fire up these babies and you'll start playing them like Sonic platformers with their iconic multi-tiered level design. The only wrinkle is that Sonic does not feel like he does in the classic games. Rolling down hills will not increase your speed. Your homing attack does a little more Sonic 4 than Sonic 3 if you catch my drift. That choice means you need to engage with enemies as obstacles more often, as your rolling state will not be your fastest option. Barreling forward without a care in the world will stop you in your tracks. Rolling through enemies is faster than a homing attack, but you don't want to stay in a ball too long. They've added the ability to uncurl from a roll, likely for this specific purpose. Rivals is not about the alluring flow of classic Sonic design. Remaining vigilant is more important than preserving momentum. Classic Sonic was a playground. These are life and death battles founded on split-second decisions. Levels incorporate little choke points to slow frontrunners down and encourage player versus player interaction. It wouldn't make sense in a single-player game, but it does here. Frontrunners lay items on the track itself while the person in second gets to shoot theirs directly forward. That radar at the bottom of the screen shows where you both are, and the more familiar you become with what this means for each track, the easier it will be to identify when it makes sense to throw out your items. Screw up their flow while they're running up a wall or through a loop. That person can respond by laying their traps in those same spots, making comebacks a little more dangerous. These mind games might cause you to take a slightly slower path, safe in the knowledge that there will not be a trap there. Items spawn in predetermined locations as well, so you may choose to break away onto a slower path for one of those. I'm impressed by how well this kind of game works in a multiplayer context. I don't usually enjoy fighting bosses in classic Sonic. Your options are to wait patiently for them to become vulnerable, or throw yourself at them violently before you run out of rings. In Rivals, you need to score more hits than your opponent to win. You'll be fighting your rival while you both wait for an opportunity to strike the boss's weak point, turning these snooze fests into hectic duels. Rivals 2 in particular is so fun to master. Tying your special ability to a meter fueled by rings lets you incorporate rings into your routing. Tails' flight mode transforms a bunch of levels like the classic games, opening up new shortcuts. They're curious little games, like full versions of the multiplayer modes in Adventure 2 and Heroes. Developing those modes into the main event gives them more room to breathe, rather than sentencing them to be overshadowed by a far more tantalizing main game mode. I will admit that I prefer Mario Kart DS. Full stop. Sunk a whole bunch of time into the mission mode as a kid, and it was the popular choice for handheld multiplayer gaming, alongside Mario Party DS. I maintain that the Sonic Rivals games are cooler. Near the end of Sonic CD, there's a moment that epitomizes the X factor of Sonic the Hedgehog. Deep within the bowels of Eggman's bad future, you come face to face with Sonic's mechanical copy. A rivalry built up over the game. You do not fight Metal Sonic like so many bosses before him. No, you race him. The two of you slingshot back and forth as you evade his attacks, with only one hedgehog standing at the finish line. A race with life or death stakes where only the fastest comes out on top. In the Rivals games, your human opponent is Metal Sonic. That tense 1v1 back and forth is not a feeling I've ever gotten from Mario Kart. I think it's only achievable in a set of games that play like Sonic platformers, that also pit two players against each other. It's a different atmosphere than 12 players custom built to promote rivalries. It really was only a matter of time before Sonic racing games dipped their toes into Mario Kart's waters. In an era where Sega was trying to course-correct Sonic's image, we get a racing game with items, carts, and track designs forged in the fires of Mario Kart. That doesn't necessarily mean we have left Sonic's racing legacy behind, though. It's still cooler than Mario Kart. Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing reminds me a lot of Sonic Drift. While this is built like Mario Kart on the surface, one crucial distinction is the ability to switch directions mid-drift and maintain your boost level. Tracks like Turbine Loop and Treetops are a good showcase of this. Typically, you don't see turns quite this tight in Mario Kart, nor are you ever required to counter drift in order to clear them. Due to the way this works, you're able to let out a drift boost at the same time as initiating another drift in the same direction. Theoretically, you can snake the whole track. How wild is it that the game, which appears to be a Mario Kart clone, is the one that reintroduced snaking to Sonic racing? Speedrunners will charge up a level 3 and then take advantage of the huge boost window to fire off quick level 1s, extending the length of that level 3 boost for much longer than intended. I'm not quite good enough to keep this up for very long, but when you get a good chain like this going, it reminds me of the tech in Crash Team Racing. Tricks return from the Riders games, which can be performed while in the air for any reason. If you don't have enough time to complete the animation, you'll lose speed like in Riders. Approaching a ramp with speed usually means you'll get more airtime, which means an easier opportunity for trick boosts. If you have enough speed going into this turn on Whale Lagoon, you'll fly right over this water section using a bump in the road. I discovered this by accident while I was racing with Amy, and I almost jumped out of my seat. You build up speed like a snowball accumulates snow until you're unstoppable. It's easy to look at this as more of a straight-up Mario Kart clone when items fly across the screen or someone pops their ultimate attack. Indeed, getting screwed over by items is a common occurrence, making it a much more accessible party game, as was likely their goal. When you're in the time trial mode, though, it's clear that the arcade spirit hasn't entirely been snuffed out. Here you go lap after lap until you quit, putting a much sharper focus on perfecting individual lap times, shaving off microseconds by cutting or snaking better than you did before, creating new ghosts with every personal best. It removes annoying track hazards, putting the focus solely on your technique. Getting a good run going is similar to perfecting an arcade racer, barreling through tracks without hitting walls and spinning out. I could think of no better play experience for a celebration of Sega's history. Sure, it wears the skin of these games, paying homage to House of the Dead, Crazy Taxi, and Super Monkey Ball, but it plays like them too. As an arcade cabinet, it wouldn't feel out of place next to juggernauts like Outrun. Wouldn't you know it, Sega did make an arcade cabinet for this, and it plays exactly the same. Still have to snake, you just do it with a gas pedal, a brake, and a steering wheel. That arcadey design philosophy courses through almost all of their games. Mario Kart had to change itself in order to work in the arcades, but not Sonic. He is but a relic of that retired outlook on what games can be. All-Stars Racing is a museum for what was at the time a long-dead play philosophy. I think that's pretty cool in an age where Sonic's platformers began to stray away from that foundation in search of mass appeal. Mario Kart 7, true to its name, was yet another entry in the Mario Kart series. Party racing as you've known it for years, except this time laps 2 and 3 might be different, and there are sections where you get to use a hang glider. A year later, Sumo Digital made a sequel to their first Sonic Racer that did all of that and then some. Of course this one's cooler than Mario Kart, are you kidding me? Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed is an intense game. On its surface, it plays like All-Stars did. You fish for a level 3 boost and try to maintain that speed for the rest of the race. Except, you are not confined to the ground this time. Transformation is the central gimmick, turning your vehicle into a boat or plane. Unlike Mario Kart, these sections last for quite a while, shaking up your controls and physics in such a way that you're basically playing a whole new racing game. Boats are heavy and slide on the waves while they drift. Planes have a full degree of motion you've got to factor in while drifting, with a ton of hazards to avoid along the way. Snaking is still the primary strategy, but this time, the track can blow up on lap 3 and your whole control scheme swaps. Air tricks are quicker and also move in the direction you flick the stick, letting you adjust your position in midair. Tracks have been built to promote longer airtime in general, practically begging you to fit in as many tricks as you think you can handle. Every single trick system we have discussed so far clears any trick system in the Mario Kart games. World is the only one with more involved stuff happening, and it's a worse version of what was already in Transformed. In flight mode, those tricks are performed by barrel rolling away from a wall or obstacle at the last possible moment for what's called a risk boost. When you know what you're doing, flight sections are the craziest parts of a race. You can carry that insane momentum into a transformation gate to send yourself through like a bullet. It makes All-Stars look cute in comparison. There are so many points of failure in Transformed. With so many more opportunities to snake and trick for boosts, you will be traveling faster than ever before on tracks with tighter and more frequent turns. It's a skill ceiling that I have not come close to meeting. Speedruns of this game are hypnotizing. That flight section in Dragon Canyon is beyond anything I could ever hope to accomplish, and the way they just slingshot themselves to the transformation gate is downright sexy. You can jettison yourself out of the Temple Trouble water section with so much speed that you literally cannot stop yourself from hitting the wall on the upcoming turn. I think the difference in philosophy here becomes clear when you compare items. In Mario Kart, items are the only way you dodge red shells or blue shells. Technically, you can also lead their pathfinding into a wall or other obstacles, but opportunities like this do not present themselves often enough for it to be a viable strategy. In Transformed, you can boost left or right at the very last moment to evade an RC car every time. And the blue shell equivalent sets a wave of hornets in front of you with narrow safe spots that frontrunners can shoot items at or attempt to evade entirely if they're skilled enough. The focus in Transformed is skilled driving. Making mistakes is what's going to allow other racers to catch up, but in order to catch up, they also need to be expert drivers. It's a racing game where racing well is the key to winning more often than not, and they have leveraged their main gimmick in order to facilitate that vision. That gimmick leans into the Sega Celebration even harder by allowing it to play like Nights into Dreams, Afterburner, or Skies of Arcadia. More than direct allusions, the boating sections remind me of Hydro Thunder. I mean, the Aegis boat is a Dreamcast controller. It had to be intentional, right? Just as its land form is a Daytona race car and its flight form is the Afterburner jet, that love letter to a bygone era of gaming is carved into its bones. Transformed has some of the coolest racetracks in any racer I've ever played. That's not simply because they reference cool video games. The way so many of them evolve before your eyes is exhilarating. Burning Depths, true to the game it's based on, starts flooding with water, giving you more boating sections. Rogue's Landing is besieged by sky pirates. The track blows up, so you need to take to the skies for the final lap as it all crumbles around you. Dream Valley has a midsection that changes every lap, like you're going through levels from the game itself. It's the energy of the whole game, constantly transforming before your eyes. Mario Kart 8 is everywhere. It's the most racing game of all time. The next Sonic Racer would inevitably be compared to it, like all the other pretenders eyeing up the vaunted throne. Seeing as it would be a Sonic racing game, though, I basically had no doubt that it would be cooler than Mario Kart, even if the margins this time are mighty slim. There's this wonderful little interview with Sumo Digital about Team Sonic Racing. They talk about how excited they are for cooperative racing, citing their experiences playing Super Bomberman as inspiration. While they acknowledge that it's a departure from the competitive nature of racers, they really hope that this game will be able to bring people together. It is so unfortunate that I never even got the chance to play it online. No matter the day, the year, the time, there is not a soul alive playing this game. It really is a shame since its core gimmick leans into party play in a way that feels in line with Sonic's skill-based racing history. Teams of 3 players is the name of the game here, and in a move that separates it from the team modes of the Mario Kart games, there are team-based mechanics. The leading player of a team will leave behind boost trails for their 2 teammates. Stay in this trail long enough and when you exit, you'll get a slingshot boost. If you skid past a slowed teammate at a high enough speed, you'll give them a skid boost, usually used after a teammate is hit by an item to get them right back up to speed. Item boxes can also be shared between teammates, and those items have the chance of being triplicated if passed this way. Performing these maneuvers will build up a team ultimate gauge, and when unleashed at the same time, you will all get a massive boost along with other effects. You are incentivized to be a team player then, since your teammates' placements can drag your own performance down. Instead of holding on to defensive wisps to keep away potential threats, you can send them to your teammates who might be able to use them to get out of a bad position. Meanwhile, you leave a trail for those teammates to slingshot themselves through the ranks. You notice a teammate about to get smashed by a rival or item? Consider taking a wider line to make your way over to them, losing a bit of speed yourself, but saving them by performing a skid boost. Doing these things will contribute to your ultimate meter, so no matter how bad your item luck, anyone can make a comeback. Team Sonic Racing shakes up the core objectives of a race while also reintroducing character types from the Riders games. Power characters don't spin out after being hit, and they're also able to open up designated shortcut walls by ramming through them without a care. Technique characters can take off-road without a boost wisp, letting them cut even tighter corners depending on the track. Speed characters emit a blast when sending out a level 2 drift that both repels rival racers and also destroys incoming attack wisps. Keep in mind, this is a Sumo Digital racer, which means you'll be snaking quite a lot, so throwing out a level 2 boost or higher is not that difficult. It can get you out of the pack or let you ignore wisps altogether. The way these types interact on a team can completely change your race strategy. Maybe you let your power teammate blow open a shortcut for the rest of your team. Maybe you're more confident as a speed type giving away defensive items since you can defend yourself using drift boosts. If you're leading as a technique type, the Golden Trail will allow teammates to take the same off-road as you by giving them a slingshot boost. These types have exclusive item pools as well, meaning that sharing them is the only way for some characters to get specific items. Technique types might have a harder time front-running due to their low top speed, so why not share a red wisp with them so they can leave a trail of fire behind them? It's aggravating, because it's like Schrodinger's based video game. I've never had the opportunity to play it online, so it will always be a hypothetical appreciation, like digging up a historical artifact. Here's the fun part though. It's a sumo digital game with a normal racing mode that controls like the All-Stars games. It has snaking and tricking on top of character-specific abilities to mess around with. I got just as much mileage out of the time trial mode and mission mode as I did the previous games. Those missions might be wrapped in the worst story in a Sonic game, but luckily, you can ignore those cutscenes and just play the game. I have been pretty harsh on TSR over the years, but those criticisms are mostly concerned with its aesthetic vibe being really cutesy and boring. It's still a fun arcadey racer at its core, even if it's lost a lot of the spice that made the All-Stars games kick. This is probably the weakest argument in my chamber, so I'm willing to concede that this might not be cooler than Mario Kart wholesale, but it does kind of depend on whether or not you were able to experience the game as it was designed. I still think it's kind of cool though. Sonic Racing CrossWorlds feels like a greatest hits of every cool idea or mechanic across every game we've talked about in this video. And in that sense, I probably don't even have to tell you that I think it's cooler than Mario Kart. However, since I'm on the right side of history and think that Mario Kart World is the coolest Mario Kart to ever release, that makes this the fiercest battle for the throne of cool yet. My biggest concern when I saw they were adding extreme gear as a kart option was that it was going to be nothing more than cosmetic. I fell in love with these hoverboards for much more than their rad designs. I fell in love with them because of how they made me feel like a daredevil. Extreme gears in CrossWorlds are the fastest at pumping out drift boosts. To get the most out of one, you need to snake for those drift boosts. It's a chaotic playstyle perfect for those who want to show off with an appropriately extreme punishment for failure. Snaking is now a playstyle option. If you're not a big fan of snaking, speed characters and karts move faster in a straight line. That means you can simply drift around designated corners and cruise away. Handling makes it so you can cut tighter lines, a much more essential trade-off in a game where colliding with walls can stop you in your tracks, as well as take away your rings. Rings function similar to coins in Mario Kart, increasing your speed the more you collect. But they feel a lot more impactful here now that there are 100 of them. Each individual ring is less important overall, only increasing your speed a marginal amount. But as soon as you reach the 100th ring, that speed jumps up about 10 points on the speedometer, meaning that it is far more important to hang on to your max ring total. Anything that can mitigate those losses is essential. Yet another mechanic that reminds me of riders. If you hate items with a passion and want to hang on to your rings, power characters and karts tank damage and get back to racing much faster than other types. They also do not lose rings or get bounced around by other racers. Amidst the chaos of the items flying around the screen and people bumping into you, brushing all that off is what power's all about. It's so strong at filling this role that I struggle to imagine why anyone would want to use an acceleration type vehicle. I suppose it's the cost of having so many options. Inevitably, one of them will underperform. That's the thing though. There is still a way to invest in acceleration, even if you can't realistically go all in. CrossWorlds innovations come in how much granular control you're afforded. Characters are not bound to kart types, meaning you can mix and match them to offset some of their weaknesses. Mixing power and acceleration together might be even stronger for brushing off items. Maybe you want a handling kart to make those tighter turns, but choose Sonic as your racer for more consistent top speed. Once you've chosen your combination, thus locking in your style of play, gadgets let you further personalize that style. Do you want collecting rings to speed you up even more than they already do? There's a gadget for that. Maybe you could pair that with Air Trick Bounty, which gives you rings for performing tricks. There's also a gadget that allows you to perform more tricks, which means more rings, which means more speed. Before you know it, you're crafting a build like it's motherfucking Balatro. Do you enjoy putting yourself in a lower position to get better items, then attempting to rocket back into first at the last minute, otherwise known as bagging? Well, there are tons of gadgets to make that playstyle work. You can add a third item slot, make certain kinds of items appear more often, and there's even a gadget that increases all of your stats by 20 points during lap 3. The most insane upgrade would be level 4 Drift, which briefly makes you invincible. Sounds pretty similar to the speed type ability from Team Sonic Racing. It's very good for smuggling drills and lasers into a high placement and using them to rocket into first. That said, it's not like it's a foolproof strategy. Buzzsaws, weights, and the green goop will take away your items when you get hit, unless you dedicate 2 whole gadget slots to prevent that effect. You can use level 4 drift, but even with max handling and a drift kit, you cannot simply whip out a level 4 drift whenever you want. It still takes a few seconds, and meandering around to crank one out is going to slow you down. Bagging is fun occasionally, but I have so many other approaches when that strategy grows stale. Running a power character on a speed type vehicle gives you a ton of top speed, while also letting you push other racers around. Pair that with collision boost and ring thief, you'll have max rings at the start of a race, probably be in first place, and won't be hit too hard by items. I don't think this is as powerful as bagging. I just have more fun with it, which is why the gadget system is crucial to making this work as well as it does. You don't even have to shoot for a synergistic build. If you want to start the race with a Dark Chow giving everyone random items as soon as the race starts, you can just do that. It's probably suboptimal in the long run, but if you're simply here to have fun, who cares? Whip out a damn monster truck at the start of a race, flatten people. Quick recovery eats up 3 slots, and some might argue that the trade-off isn't worth it when there are allegedly better gadgets to use instead. Doesn't it feel really cool to slap onto a power acceleration build though? Is that worth nothing? The freedom to choose is a core theme in CrossWorlds, a fascinating contrast to Mario Kart World's take on freedom. That game champions an open road, and as such it has broken the limits of what you can do in kart racers. Now you can jump, wall ride, and rail grind your way through an interconnected world. However, you must do that in the way Nintendo has designed it. That means traveling to the courses and making those part of the race. I think this is a really cool change to Mario Kart, but it has been a very unpopular change. CrossWorlds, on the other hand, remains accessible by giving you unparalleled control. Getting frustrated in online lobbies? Change your gadget loadout for a whole new racing experience. Time trials kicking your ass? Think a little more about the track you're on. Consider its design and what kart type or gadget combo would benefit the most. Lots of off-road might warrant running the off-road ring bounty, rewarding rings while you're on the off-road. These time trials are nutty. I challenge you to get all the S ranks without pulling your hair out. I haven't seen a ranking system this devious from a Sonic game in a very long time. They're so fun to master because of the various approaches you get to take. Extreme Gear is capable of getting crazy good times. As you'd expect, they're also really hard to pull off. You need to snake all the time to get as many drift boosts as possible, while also cutting every corner as tightly as you can and never bumping into walls. Gadgets can either help you mitigate those weaknesses, or you can go all in on boosts and ring gain if you're confident in your abilities. Throw on the Drift Bounty gadget and you'll be able to get rings if you release the drift as soon as you get it. This pairs so well with snaking and ring speed boost that you'll dominate the leaderboards, provided you don't make a single mistake. Handling types fill a bit of a niche here, since they make cutting corners so much easier. Many of the tracks have a lot of tight turns, including various shortcuts that don't require a boost wisp. Taking those cuts with a boost or speed type is much more difficult than it is with a handling type, and for the harder courses, it might just mean the difference between an A and an S rank. I was grinding out Metal Harbor for so long on the Extreme Gear until I eventually relented and switched to the handling type so I could cut the turns better. I do know I could get a much better time if I got better at Extreme Gear though, and that's an addicting feeling. You get to experiment with that in all of the racetracks and CrossWorlds. Running a speed type on Metal Harbor looks a bit different from a handling type, which looks a bit different from a boost type. Who even knows what gadgets people will run, since it depends on the track? Grand Prix takes its cues from a bunch of these games, with a rival mechanic that reminds me of Sonic Rivals. Giving you a Sonic character to direct your frustrations toward, letting them smack talk you a little bit, builds this tension throughout a Grand Prix. Rather than needing to come out on top of everyone, sometimes even just making sure you beat your rivals enough. You're allowed to crank up their difficulty until it takes perfect mastery of a course to win. Since items are at play as well, though, you also need to make sure you keep defensive items in reserve. It's yet another case where bringing different gadgets to fit the challenge is a good idea. In a Grand Prix, items will be flying around everywhere, so you need to have a game plan to deal with them. Whether that means playing like you're in a time trial and simply hoping that lead is enough to carry you, or defaulting to a power type to slow burn the race and win at the very end. No matter what, beating a max rank rival race is going to be an ordeal. In that way, it reminds me of how involved it is to beat Sonic Drift 2 without losing a single race. You need to be on top of everything at all times. No mistakes or your race is over. It sells this competitive fantasy which rests at the heart of racing games. Decisions like allowing you to see who you hit with an item make races feel a little more personal. The online mode doesn't have a rival mechanic, which disappointed me at first, until I realized that the whole point of games like this is that those rivalries develop organically. You can't really have rivalries like that without letting players display their personality and skill through their choices of character, vehicle, and gadgets. You have so much control over how your kart looks, down to mixing and matching different pieces, choosing the colors, the finish, and even a bunch of decal slots. You really get to make these karts your own, something I thought I was going to be able to do in Mario Kart when I saw unlockable stickers. Turns out you can only apply one sticker at a time and you don't even get to choose where it goes. For some kart types, I still can't even figure out where it shows up. And that makes sense for a game where stats and vehicle types don't really matter that much. Playing more and seeing how many different racers are out there, picking up on their favorite characters, their preferred playstyle, it finally made me understand CrossWorlds' central gimmick. You might have the freedom to choose your playstyle, but you cannot control what happens in a race. That's a contradiction at the heart of most kart racers, one that has angered many Mario Kart World players, and rather than running from it, CrossWorlds embraces it. Each lap of a race is different from the last. Lap 1 standard fare, then you're transported to a CrossWorld for the second lap, chosen by whoever's in the lead. After that, you go back to the original track, which has changed in some way, often with a whole new section or shortcut to take. Those CrossWorlds might even have frenzy events that add boost panels, letting you charge drifts insanely fast, or even replace your items with an infinitely respawning boost wisp. I bring that one up, as it totally ruins baggers by taking away their item for a whole lap. It's an even more chaotic track design philosophy than Transformed, with the final race of a Grand Prix combining the 3 tracks together into a big ol' victory lap. It's an extremely unpredictable racer, which makes sense. If you've taken anything away from this video, it's probably that while all these racing games are different, they all share the same spirit. That is a reflection of the racing series as much as it is a reflection of Sonic himself. He has tried so many things that he has shattered himself across space and time along with his fan base. He isn't typically batting home runs like Mario, but Mario isn't often transgressive. You can see that through Mario Kart itself. The point of this exercise was not to shit all over Mario Kart. I still like those games, but I have always struggled to love them the same way that I do other racers, as until the latest game, not many of them have been willing to take big swings. Mario Kart World is the biggest risk I have ever seen Nintendo take with one of these games, and it has received quite a lot of pushback. That's been the story of Sonic for almost all of his games. Each of us has a vision of what Sonic is, likely based on one of those games that did something unorthodox and spoke to us. CrossWorlds forces us all to accept that this eclectic history is part of Sonic's appeal. It's possible to get the hidden world CrossWorld in the middle of Radical Highway. That kind of dissonance can't help but put a smile to my face. It makes me look back on this franchise, the good and the bad, the weird, and just appreciate that this little blue rat is still alive and kicking. promote CrossWorlds, Sega released an animated short, as they've been doing for almost all of their games in recent years. It's a wordless short from the perspective of Shadow tearing up the racetrack. Quite frankly, this thing's badass. Several minutes of bombastic action with an ending clash between Sonic and Shadow. My best compliment for CrossWorlds, and really every Sonic racing game, is that they reflect the insane energy of this short. When you're shredding the track, weaving in and out of other racers, sending items everywhere, or blowing past the person in first at the last minute, that's what it means to be cool. That's what it means to be Sonic. Play is an incredibly potent storytelling device unique to video games, one that I feel like we might be underselling when we talk about them. Games like Okami are praised primarily for their striking aesthetic design. But how does that art style intersect with how you play the game? How do players use the celestial brush to paint new meaning? Maybe you're interested in answering questions like this, and if so, I actually have a show about it, called Masterful Mimicry. This show is dedicated to exploring the intersection between inspiration and interactivity in video games. The first episode, titled Okami is a Canvas, digs deep into the inspiration behind Okami's art style and how players use the celestial brush to deepen their understanding of beauty. You can watch this along with future episodes over on Nebula. Nebula is dedicated to producing original works just like this. It's a streaming service with outstanding exclusive videos on games, movies, television, history, and philosophy. Free of obnoxious ads, the site's very comfortable to use with thoughtfully curated works to watch. It is also the only place you'll be able to watch my show. With my link, you can get 40% off of Nebula. It's just $36 a year, $3 a month, or one payment of $300 lifetime, a $200 discount at go.nebula.tv/KingK. That's 40% off for access to Nebula for life. Nebula also offers lifetime gift cards if you're interested in gifting Nebula to friends and family during the holidays. If you're not quite sure you want to commit, guest passes are available to check out the site, no payment info required. Use my link in the description to get 40% off of Nebula and access to the Okami episode of Masterful Mimicry, as well as future episodes.